Hi, welcome to the breadboard. We have a special edition today. We are in the woods of Ave in the wife's sewing room. I do have official permission to be in the sewing room. Wife, do I have your permission?
You have my permission.
There we go. It's for real. It's official. So we have another unboxing today, mailbag sort of thing. It's a little different because it is a CNC project. It is a home automation project, but it's not a CNC router or anything. So we have a special package here. My daughter, Jessica, right here next to me, is going to take over in a moment. She is a final year student at Ryerson University here in Toronto, and part of her final year processes is they're encouraged to go out and get sponsorship to help them with their final lineup that they have to do. So with that in mind, my daughter reached out to a company called Baby Lock, who make a lot of, I'm just going to say automation machines right now. And they responded by sending her this with some extra goodies. And so we're going to unbox it, have a look at it, and basically say thank you to the sponsors. And I'm going to hand it over to my daughter right now so that she can actually do the unboxing and everything else. So you'll see why it's in the wife's sewing room in a moment. Here we go.
Hi, my name's Jessica. I'm a fourth year student at Ryerson University. It's my part 2 because I'm taking this semester in 2 years. And this is a sponsorship that I received from Baby Lock. They're sponsoring me so I can finish my fourth year final project, which is an entire runway show line. So we have to do 5 garments. And this is what they have sent me to complete it, which I am incredibly amazed by, and we're gonna find out why it is a CNC and a home automation and what it is. Although to clarify, when I say 5 garments, what I actually mean is 5 outfits with multiple garments per, so we're just under 20 garments in total in 5 weeks.
Lots of work.
Lots of work. That's why this is so helpful. So what we've got here is called a Verve, and it's being released new this fall. So they have probably just been released on the marketplace now. All right, let's take everything out of the box. Whoop. It's actually really nicely packaged. I have 3 other Baby Lock machines. Well, my mother and I have 3 other Baby Lock machines in total. We have a Serger home industrial and a large embroidery machine, their new Destiny 2. And we've been so happy with them that's why we reached out to Baby Lock, because we know what they have are very good machines and very reliable machines. Okay.
Need a hand brisket?
Possibly.
I'll hold the box while you get it out. That's everything. Let me move the box out of the way.
Yep.
You want to be unboxed as well? Huh?
Oh, he does like boxes.
We've got a guest appearance.
All right. Let's just do this with the guest appearance. We know there's no point in moving him. All right, so this is one of my favorite parts about this. One of many favorite parts. This is a hardcover. Any sewing machine owner knows hardcovers are lovely to make something portable, which is really great when you have to go to Toronto and back a lot. I can actually put this at a residence that I stay at in Toronto so that I can sew there and here without an issue of dragging it to and from school. This is the machine itself, and this is the first time I'm looking at it myself. I did have a brief look at it at the creative show when I went to visit and I guess introduce myself to Baby Lock. Maybe pause so I can just undo some of this stuff. or not. Or they can, you know what, they can watch me just struggle here.
Fast forward it.
You know what, they can watch me struggle. That's cool. I'm cool with that.
I'll just compress the time.
I'm a fashion student. I'm used to it. Yep. Aha! I'd be interested to know what all of these pieces of tape are for. My guess is so that little pieces like this don't come getting caught on something and pulling off, but at the same time, it's just kind of amusing. So this is a tray, and you put stuff in it because, well, otherwise you lose stuff. You lose a lot in the sewing room. Isn't that right, Mom? This is what I mean when I say that it's a sewing machine with an add-on that allows you to do embroidery. Now, my dad has pointed out to me that that's also the case for the larger embroidery machine, but at the same time, I feel, and I mean, I might be wrong about this, but I feel like this is a machine that you would generally use for sewing because it is a smaller machine, but that you can easily flip this on and do an embroidery piece too. I don't know, that's the gist that I get from this. So what that is for is that removes, and this slides on. And then this here will get plugged in that way, and it goes on to embroider that little hoop. Oh, and I have just learned there's a little clasp under here that allows it to be released. My dad is the embroidery king, as he is the one who has had the time to figure out how to use the Destiny tube. Which is, to remind you, the big embroidery machine that we have downstairs. This is the foot pedal.
Why is the foot pedal important?
Because, I mean, some people like using the buttons up here, which is very handy if you don't want to use your feet to control the thing or don't want to drag around the foot pedal. But people like me, I like having both hands to manipulate my fabric all the time. I don't like not having that available to me.
And this is more important for sewing rather than embroidery, because sewing you manipulate the fabric, and embroidery you're not.
Yeah, embroidery, you put it in the hoop, it stays in the hoop, you plug it in, you do your thing. Sewing, you're constantly moving, and I like having as much control as I can over it, which means using my feet and my hands.
So it's kind of like a car accelerator pedal.
Precisely. That is exactly what it does. So I usually do that with all my machines. Some of my other machines even have knee pedal things that you use to lift up the presser foot, which is this little bit that holds down your fabric, so that you can manipulate it with both hands while not having to hold it up or change it. That just saves you time, essentially. Here's the cord to plug it in. Pretty standard. And then you got the little mini sewing kit that tends to come with these. I have no idea what this is, and I'm very intrigued.
It's like a hole punch.
It looks like it looks like a hole punch. Cool. That's never come with one of these before. I've never seen one of those in a pack. Nice pair of little scissors. Oh, they even have a cap on them. That's actually pretty cool. They actually look like decent little snippers too. Yeah. And having caps on them, I know it's just a little plastic thing, but my gosh, has it saved my bags. So what else we got? We got cleaning. We've got wraps. This is little rip stitcher that comes with all of them. I guess a spare cover for that. Holds in the thread. Needles. Whoa, that is I think that's the screwdriver. Oh, I've never seen one like that before for these machines. I guess that's what you get when you get the new one that's going to be released, and more needles. Needles are great. I love needles.
Is that a double needle on that other one?
Yeah. Or at least that'd be really interesting. It is, in fact, a double needle, which I am incredibly curious as to what that does.
Let me just zoom in a bit so you can show them it.
Here. So it's a needle that it has this piece.
Right, look at the camera so you can...
It has a needle, like, it has this piece where it fits into the machine as if it was one needle, but it has an attachment that makes it 2 needles. And try to make it focus. 2 needles. A lot of times that's used in serging, in top stitching, which has a serged underbelly, or double stitching. And I am not entirely sure how it works in this machine, and we'll figure that out. But very excited. Okay, I've never had that on one of my machines other than my serger. So that's actually quite exciting. I look forward to figuring out what that's for. What kind of mischief we're up to here. I'm gonna put this on. All nice and packaged and put away. Here we are. This is here we have our feet and our bobbins. These are some of my favorite parts because this is what allows you to do different things on the sewing machine. Not the embroidery machine, but the actual sewing machine. So this is a buttonhole, and I love when these come with it because
it's a buttonhole attachment. It's not an actual buttonhole.
Sorry. Yes. My dad would like me to be pedantic about the actual wording of this. It is a buttonhole foot, which means you put it in here, you put your button in here, clamp it down on the button so it understands how big the button is. Pull down a little lever here so that the machine can understand. There it is. So the machine can understand how big the button is. And then you insert that and it stops when it hits the thing, giving you a buttonhole with specific settings that I won't go into because that's a whole thing.
We'll do some additional videos later on using specific things, just so you don't have to get into too much detail right now. Just explain what they are.
Yeah,
right.
That's why I stopped myself short. This appears to be the high. This appears to... Grayson. Okay. Let's not step on my lovely new things.
Thank you. Bobbins. Look, say hello to the camera. Yes, there you go. Now go.
Doesn't want to look. He knows he's beautiful. So this is the embroidery foot. I love these things. They're actually super cute and cool. They have like a weird loopy thing that just go bloop, bloop, bloop. Yeah, I know. So descriptive. So descriptive. Bobbins. Always love having new bobbins because that means you can have more colors. And colors are great. I have no idea what kind of foot this is.
And like electronics, where you never have enough multimeters, in sewing, you never have enough bobbins.
Yeah, because you're always buying new colors of threads to match the new fabric, to match the new this or that, or maybe you're deciding to do a really, really crazy embroidery design and you suddenly need 100 more colors. So there's a lot more feet here, and I think we'll go over them later. You know, standard zipper foot. I don't recall what all of these are off the top of my head. I usually look them up in my book before I use them because it's smart to look it up in your book. So, awesome. This, as we said, is the embroidery machine attachment. We have our lovely book, which will save our butts many, many, many times over. These are actually quite thorough. They're getting really thick nowadays, too, as they get more and more abilities and add-ons and stuff. So then, a lovely cover. So my dad just pulled up the manuals for me. We've got the quick reference guide, which just kind of covers exactly what it says, quick references, bobbins, threading, the basics, so that you can easily figure out what you need to do for that. And we will add a link to these so that you can actually see them online if you want to get one of these. You have the more complete instructional guide where you figure out all the things, all the foots, all of the different possible problems that you can fix, anything that you may need to know extra, ways to manipulate the machine to get your stitches right, get this right, get that right. You know, just all the different functions and abilities of the machine. If you have a problem, that'll usually fix it for you. And then, ooh, this is my favorite part. This is my favorite part. Okay, this is the embroidery one. So it'll go over the different functions of the machine, how to go around them, different menus. Skip, skip, skip. Color guides to all the pretty, pretty colors. And it'll go over a lot of different Madeira, Silky, Gutermann, Country, Isacord. It goes over all the different kind of colors and what their individual numbers are.
All those names that she just mentioned, they're actually the manufacturers of different threads and things that you can get for sewing machines, embroidery, etc.
Yes. So they all have different number guides because they all have different colors that they have in their availability. So they have often have things like, pause and zoom in maybe. Oh, these are butterflies! It's so cute. I love the butterflies. Is it on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They have things like
It's upside down on the camera.
Is it?
Oh no, sorry. Mine's it.
Dad. So yeah, a lot of things like lettering with pretty butterflies. I'm sure any whimsical person would like that. Halloween stuff, summer stuff, Christmas stuff. It usually has a really good selection of a lot of things. They have really pretty roses in this one. I love when they have the really elegant things.
And these are all built into the machine?
Yeah, these are all the ones that are available with the purchase of the machine. So they'll already be in the menu. You can buy more online, upload more. You can make your own. Oh, these are cool. These ones are really cool. They're Japanese lanterns, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they're really pretty festival lanterns. Which I personally, I find elegant designs like that to be really cool. And they have cute little kitties on pumpkins. I love Halloween too. I love all these things. But yeah, they got a nice selection in this one. They're really looking at different interesting things as they go along. The designs tend to get more complicated and more pretty.
So those are all built into the machine. You can also design your own and add them and things if you've got the right software and stuff like that.
The Destiny 2 actually has a lot of interesting aspects to it that let you do that. And I'm trying to figure out what this box is. Can't think what I'm possibly missing. Of course, right. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. So here we have the table. So this is like, it's just like this thing, but it gives you a better extension and it doesn't act as a container. So this one has a container aspect. This one, and actually this little section here, I believe, is where the knee press tends to go if you have one for this particular machine. I, however, do not. And this is an extension table that goes in there. It's actually quite a nice big one. Things like this help you fit this into big tables. I have a table over there that fits my Jane, my industrial sewing machine. And this one has the measurements, all the standard stuff that you'd get with this. Has some really sturdy leg feet, stand things, this things. I'm actually quite fond of this. They all, as machines get better, they seem to have different ones, but these have very good plastic bottomed ones that are rounded, so you don't have to worry about it not sitting flat.
Yeah,
Rubbery, so it won't go off your table. And actually, they seem pretty sturdy. They got metal bits and everything in this. And they're adjustable in height. And actually, in a really good way. This is quite impressive.
So from what I understand, one of the benefits of the table is so that it gives you a bigger work area at the height of the sewing machine, so that you can keep your material flatter and better control it, rather than having it hanging over.
So if you just have, say, this, and you have a large piece of fabric you're trying to sew on and you're trying to keep straight, it kind of pulls more down. It has a lot less supportive surface, so that when you have your fabric and you're going in, you're trying to keep it straight, it's all pulling this way and pulling everywhere else. When you have this, It adds extra room so that your fabric can sit on top instead of pulling quite so much. Now, when you get into meters and meters of large pieces of fabric, well, nothing's going to help you. But this helps with anything. Basically, most of my garments, this will help keep it straight. All right, so I've lined up all the feet that came with the machine, and we've got the zigzag foot, which comes on the machine. It's just a good overall foot. We've got the monogramming foot, so you can write your name on things easily without having to go all the way to the embroidery foot. You have the overcast foot. We'll go over that stuff later. The zipper foot, so putting in zippers. The blind stitch foot. The button fitting foot, which I believe is to put actual buttons on. Well, this is the buttonhole foot, which allows you to put buttonholes on the fabric. And the embroidery foot, which is you're using with the hoop and the attachment to make embroidery.
And all of these came with the machine, so you don't have to buy these separate.
These are all the ones that came with the machine. Okay. This is my last box. It came separately. And it should be some manner of attachments, I think. And it looks like we have feet. So the first thing we have is a walking foot. This is great for leathers, extreme stretches, silky stuff. Things that you don't want to drag your foot across the fabric or move too much because otherwise it'll shift. So this is a walking foot. It literally walks along to make sure your feet don't go weird.
So just to add a bit of detail to that, all sewing machines have what they call dogs on the bottom, which are like little teeth.
Feed dogs.
Feed dogs that help move the material underneath what is normally a smooth foot. Mm-hmm. But when you have thicker materials and multiple layers...
or easily damageable materials like leather or really light silks or anything you don't want to leave feet marks on.
Then you use this upper piece to go with it, and it helps move the material along from the top as well as the dogs on the bottom. So, to give a bit of a clearer explanation of that, because this is always a complicated thing in my head, it basically... naturally, the under one might pull on the fabric more than the top, or the top may push the fabric more while the under feed dogs are pulling on the fabric. What the walking foot does is, as the bottom feed dogs are doing this, the walking foot basically goes like this. So it's as gently as possible and as evenly as possible moving the fabric. And I need this because I have a leather jacket in my line, which is very important. Here, I love these boxes, we have a bias binder foot. A lot of the interior of my garments are going to be Hong Kong finished or just bias finished, which makes a very clean interior. So this is going to save me a lot of time in order to actually do that. So what does that do with it?
This essentially allows you to do all steps of bias binding in one. So you don't have to go through the entire length, stitch it, fold it over, go through the entire length, stitch it, etc. This allows you to just feed it through with the bias and it'll stitch it on the seam allowance. Which for the Hong Kong finish, I might have to stitch down after, but it makes it so you don't actually have to necessarily even stitch it down if it'll lay flat on its own.
So if you're not a sewer, that might not make much sense to you. If you are, then it probably makes perfect sense. Blows my mind because I haven't got a clue. But what we may do in a future video is try to demonstrate that.
This is a bias edge. It's basically a strip of bias, which is fabric cut on an angle, so it's super stretchy, just sewn through the outside. This I would have had to stitch at least 2 times to put it on. Well, 2 times, because I was doing it fast. And it just makes an edge. This allows me to do that all in one shot, and it keeps it even, and it makes sure you always catch it, which is a lot nicer than trying to do that manually. Next thing we have the cording foot. And I got some cording thanks to my school, who had a bunch of it donated to them. So I wanted to be able to use this on trims and hems and just to add in interesting places.
So what's cording?
It's a cord. It's cord that you stitch onto fabric. So this is a 3-cord sewing foot, which means it's got little ridges on the bottom which guide the cord. Oh wait, it has more than ridges. It has holes that guide the cord through the foot so that it can essentially zigzag over it and stitch it down, which is way more easier than if you tried to do this manually. This keeps it straight. Up next, we are looking at a braiding foot. This is similar in a way to the cording foot, but it's for a much larger piece. It allows you to guide like thick braids, anything that might fit through this, which is about 1/4 inch wide, and it can be rather deep instead of just small cords.
So is this kind of like what you get on the edges of couches when you get that big bundle wrapped around stuff like that?
Similar, that's piping.
Okay, so even bigger, that's even bigger.
Well, this can be the same size as piping. Piping is basically a cord that you might stick through this, wrapped in fabric and then inserted into a seam. This allows you to stitch things on top without inserting it. So you can have cord designs swirling, making pictures, adding texture, and I mean, it limited by your creativity sort of thing. But last up, we have an edge joining foot. This is going to be especially useful with things like the leather or any of my really thick fabrics. It essentially takes 2 pieces of fabric, you can butt up the edges, and it will stitch them together. This can be difficult when you're trying to just do this yourself. It's difficult to keep that joint straight and together. What this specific foot does is it has almost a blade on the bottom, which, I mean, in a way, it keeps your 2 fabrics separate by that tiniest fraction of a sliver, which allows it to just keep it straight right in the middle. So you just feed them in, keep them up against that, and you can keep a straight edge when you're trying to bind 2 different fabrics together.
I guess it also prevents them from overlapping each other too.
Exactly. So no overlaps and no gaps, and no weird, the zigzag is barely keeping them together because it moved off to the side. This is going to be very important because the leather I picked for my coat is not quite long enough for for all the pieces. So I'm going to have to do this to make my fabric large enough to actually stitch. Hi. I wanted to add that I am very, very grateful to a lady named Edith Caulfield, who owns a store called So Have Fun in Oshawa. It's the local distributor of Baby Lock. Edith is the one who introduced me to Baby Lock and forwarded my sponsorship request to them so that they would even be able to consider me in the first place. On top of that, she also sent me, on knowledge that I received an embroidery machine, this lovely box of embroidery threads, which is just so full of pretty threads. You've got, I mean, this one has bobbin threads and needles, so this one doesn't show how awesome this entire thing is. It's like you've got the pretty, super pretty ones, but the really fun ones to look at are like these ones, these drawers. These drawers are so darn pretty and full of all the pretty things. They're basically, I have all the threads I could possibly need for all the examples. So big thanks to Edith and Baby Lock for all of the support. It's definitely going to make my final year much easier.
And from what we understand, the fashion show is going to be streamed.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's the fashion show that I'll be putting on is going to be streamed. And when we actually know more about that, I'll mention it for sure.
Yeah, we'll try and post some links and things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the big mass exodus, which makes sense because it's the mass exodus when you graduate. And it's a big runway fashion show that's put on by the fashion design and fashion communication students at Ryerson. So all the 4th/5th years, for anyone who split their final year, like me, they're all going to be there, and there's going to be evening wear, casual wear, men's, women's. I'm doing plus size, so size 16 women's garments, costumes actually. So there's even costumes, which is exciting. So it's been lovely meeting you all. This is over to my dad to explain more stuff, which he just told me what I was going to say, and I forgot. CNC and home automation. I can't remember those words apparently. Here to Dad.
Hi, it's me again. So why is this a CNC? Well, I guess the first thing you need to understand is what is a CNC. CNC stands for Computer Numeric Control. This, as a embroidery machine, even as a sewing machine, it's got a computer in it, and it controls a head that's doing the work and also positioning material underneath it. If you remember looking back to a 3D printer, a CNC router that I've got out in the garage, and many other things, they have an X and Y orientation for moving the head or moving the work. They have a head that does the work, whether that be a 3D printer hot end, whether it be a router cutting out wood, whether it be a laser cutting through material, or in this case, whether it is a sewing head laying down thread onto a flattish surface. They're all doing basically the same thing. And in its embroidery configuration, we've got the little plate on here. It can move in the X and Y plane, moving the material around because the sewing head itself is staying still. But the sewing head is then laying down thread onto this. And in a lot of these more modern machines, the sewing head itself can also position its height automatically because it needs to track different thicknesses of material. If you got leather and things, you could be as much as 6 millimeters thick, or about 1/4 of an inch. Some of the lighter materials, it might be only fractions of a millimeter, but either way, it's adjusting the height as well so that you can get a better embroidery or sewing finish on the material that you're sewing. So in all respects, it is a CNC machine. All right. I know it may not be what you were quite expecting when I first introduced the video, but that's part of the fun of this, right? But my daughter is going to be using this. Why is it home automation? Well, it's for the home. It's a domestic model, and you design patterns, embroidery patterns, stitch patterns, and things like that on a computer, and you then can plug them in here and you can update it to do different things. So, and once you start it going, it basically just runs all automatically. You're not sitting here moving the bed around. It's fully automated. So technically it comes under the home automation as well. It's not like your security system or an alarm system or something, or turning your lights on and off, but it is an automatic machine running in the home. It is a CNC machine for home use. So just to close this off, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to know more about what my daughter is doing in university with her LARPing and everything else, just drop in some comments and I'll see if I can get her to give you some feedback. But that basically completes this now with the unboxing and the little explanation of why I did the intro the way I did. And yes, we are in the wife's sewing room, and now you know why. Anyway, that completes this video. We'll have lots of follow-up videos on using different aspects of this CNC machine as well as my other ones on my channel, and we may start up one especially for Jessica for her sewing and her university stuff and her line. And that's it. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye bye for now.
Smile.